trying to make sure my AV Nautilus is visible.
Represent.
And my Nautilus earrings.
Should have brought my Nautilus necklace.
Hi, Belfast. This is Kelly at the Inner Space Center.
Hi, Kelly. This is Susan. Can you hear me?
I can. How's everyone doing today?
We have no sound at the moment. Bear with us a few seconds.
Oh, no. I hear you. Hopefully you can see me.
We can see you waving.
One step. I hear you, so that's good.
No, they're currently in Galveston. Yeah, and they're heading to Galapagos next. Do you want to try speaking again, Kelly?
Sure. Can you hear me yet, Susan? Maybe.
Yay! We got you.
Yay. Okay, great. So let's get started. So we have a fun-filled program for you today where we will introduce you to what we do here at the Ocean Exploration Trust and on our ship, the EV Nautilus. Now we'll also tell you about some of the discoveries we've made and get the chance to go live to members of our Corps of Exploration on board the EV Nautilus right now. But to start off our program, we have a quick video to tell you a little bit more about the Nautilus Exploration Program.
We call our planet Earth, but 71% of it is covered by water. The deep oceans have captured human imagination since the dawn of civilization. We've explored its surface, even observed it from the moon. Now, with today's technologies of unmanned vehicles and telepresence, we can explore the deepest regions of our great oceans for the first time. Led by pioneering explorer Dr. Robert Ballard, the Corps of Exploration aboard the EV Nautilus are working to solve the mysteries of the deep. You can join them as they explore the unknown. The largest mountain ranges on our planet, and more volcanoes than are on the land, plus artifacts that tell the story of human civilization and creatures like nothing we have seen before. Now, we can all join the Corps of Exploration live on this great voyage of exploration.
Welcome back.
Wow, Kelly, we understand that Nautilus has some pretty high-tech tools for conducting the exploration programs. Could you tell us a little bit about some of those tools, please?
Absolutely. So first is our ship, the EV Nautilus. She's 211 feet long and can hold up to 48 people, staying out to sea for about 3 weeks or more. Now mounted on the hull of the ship, or the bottom, is our new multi-beam sonar mapping system. This multi-beam mapping system allows us to make detailed maps of the seafloor by sending down an array of sound waves. Because so little of our ocean has actually been mapped, we're able to use this new system while moving the Nautilus at almost full speed of 11 knots. And after we've made these detailed maps, that's when we use another piece of technology to get a closer look. We use ROVs, or remotely operated vehicles, instead of sending people down. We use Hercules and Argus. They're equipped with high-definition cameras, really bright lights, and are connected back up to the Nautilus by a long fiber optic cable, so that way the pilots on the ship and the control van are able to pilot them and move them around. Now Hercules has 2 manipulator arms, so we're able to take samples and conduct experiments from on board the ship. Now ROVs provide an advantage of being able to stay in the water for however long that we need them to, unlike human-occupied submersibles. We can share our discoveries live online 24/7 with another key piece of technology called telepresence. By connecting Nautilus to shore via a stabilized satellite system, we're able to stream live online so everyone's able to be along with us and explore the ocean. But last and most important is our team that we bring out on the Nautilus called the Corps of Exploration. And they can hail from all over the world, bringing different expertise on board for every different mission. But to explain a little bit more about the 2015 Nautilus season, I'm going to bring on board the ship, we have Tammy and Beverly, and they can tell you a little bit more about what they've been doing and answer any questions that you have.
Hello everybody in Belfast. My name is Tammy Aurelio and I'm a high school science teacher in the state of Florida. And with me is my partner here who will introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Beverly Owens, and I'm a science educator and STEM professional development provider in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Discovery Place Education Studio. And we're excited to be sharing some information about Nautilus with you today. So what we've been doing lately here on the Nautilus is we've been exploring some different brine pool sites. And the particular site that we were investigating was called the Jacuzzi of Despair. And brine pools are really cool because they're underwater lakes. And these brine pools basically have salt that has leached out from the ocean floor, and that addition of salt to the salt water makes it have a higher salinity, which means it's going to be more dense, so it stays in a concentrated pocket of this brine. So we've been using a really cool instrument on the Hercules ROV called a laser spectrometer, which was developed by some of the scientists we had here on board the Nautilus from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. And the laser spectrometer helped us to collect data about the chemicals and the composition of the brine pool. So we were looking for things like dissolved gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, ethane, and other types of hydrocarbons.
And we're not only collecting chemical samples, we're also collecting biological samples at the brine pool. Now, these brine pools, as Beverly said, are super salty or super saline, which means that animals cannot survive inside the brine. What we did discover when we had Hercules down at the edge of the brine pool, we saw a little area where you had a few dead animals, a few dead crabs, and some relatively large isopods, and that's one of the reasons why we were calling this area the Jacuzzi of Despair, because so many animals were dying once they got into that really salty brine. But right on the edge, on the outer edge of the brine pool, there's plenty of life. We collected some samples of mussels, and the mussels were carpeting the seafloor near the brine pool, and we stored the mussels in a bio box right on the ROV Hercules. We brought the mussels to the surface and they were processed in the wet lab that we have right here on the EV Nautilus. And those mussels were going to be sent to institutions around the world, including the Max Planck Institute. And what the scientists are looking at with the mussels are the symbiotic bacteria that are living inside the tissues. And those bacteria are converting the various chemicals in the brine pools to something usable by the mussels and essentially helping the mussels get a source of food. So it's not just chemistry, but we're also using biology. We also did a little bit of geology and collected some sediment samples. So a lot goes on as far as exploration.
Now we'll take time to answer any questions that you might have.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Beverly. So we have a mixed audience here, including one gentleman who says he has actually been on board Nautilus. So I'm just going to see if any of our audience have questions first,
excellent.
and then we'll get back to your visitor. So would anyone here like to ask any questions of Nautilus? They're all really shy to begin with. My question is, can anything at all actually live in the brine pool?
Yes, in fact, bacteria can live in the brine pool. There's a lot of bacteria living in a variety of locations, both in the water and on land, that are collectively referred to as extremophiles, which just essentially means they prefer to live in extreme environments, whether it's extremely salty water, like in the brine pool, or even bacteria that live in extremely hot conditions, such as the bacteria that we'll be seeing later on this season that are living around the hot water at hydrothermal vents. So as far as we know, the only life that can survive in these salty conditions are different types of bacteria.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Anyone brave enough for a question yet? There's lots of whispering going on, but nobody quite yet. Can you tell us a little bit about your roles on board and
Who's
some
going
of
to
the
be
other
brave
roles
enough?
that are on Nautilus?
What's been really impressive to me, and I know, Tammy, we've talked about this as well, is that there's so many different people represented here on the Nautilus. There are a lot of people from different career pathways. So Tammy and I are educators, and we are science communication fellows, which means that we've been sharing information about the research here on the Nautilus with others in the community, with educators and students, and just the general public. So we want to be able to effectively communicate that and share the research that's been going on at Nautilus. So there are a lot of other people on board as well. We have the ship's crew, and so we have cooks and mechanics and all sorts of different people that keep the ship running and well maintained. We also, within the Corps of Exploration, have a wide variety of scientists and engineers and artists that are on board. So some of the artistry that we've been seeing is there are some folks that are video engineers. We had an intern who was studying videography and natural history. We also have an intern that's from the Coast Guard Academy and has been one of our navigation team. And the ROV pilots and ROV engineers are well trained and very well skilled and are great at problem solving and troubleshooting. And one thing that's been really impressive to me is that everybody's very collaborative and there's lots of teamwork that goes on. So not only do you have the scientists and engineers studying the specific things that they do and completing their individual tasks, but they work together when something needs to be fixed or if there's a problem that needs to be solved. So they put their heads together and do a lot of collaboration.
Super. And can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming expedition leg?
Sure. Tomorrow, we are hoping to leave in the early afternoon here in Texas time and make our way down to Panama. And we're going to be crossing through the Panama Canal on May 28th, so definitely tune into nautiluslive.org at that time so you can see a view of the Panama Canal. Once we cross through the Panama Canal, that will mark the first entry of the EV Nautilus into Pacific waters. And from there, she'll be sailing down to the Galapagos Islands and spending nearly a month in the Galapagos looking at hydrothermal vents and the Galapagos Rift system, where you've got a lot of tectonic activity. And then after that leg of the expedition, the ship will sail back towards the United States and do some exploration off the coast of California, looking at some methane seeps and also investigating a shipwreck where it's actually not a boat that sank, but a dirigible or a flying blimp that was one of our first real aircraft carriers. And you can look at a video on the Nautilus Live website for a view of what that dirigible looks like. So we'll be doing some shipwreck exploration, and then from there continue northward off the coast of Canada and doing some more deep water work there.
Fantastic. And can you tell us what's so special about the hydrothermal vents?
Sure. They are a place that is so extreme. Initially, back before the 1970s, when the hydrothermal vents were discovered, nobody realized that life could exist in complete darkness. It used to be thought that all life on Earth relied on the process of photosynthesis, where you've got plants converting sunlight and carbon dioxide into glucose, which everything else in the ecosystem feeds off of. But it turns out in 1977, when Dr. Ballard was at the hydrothermal vent system near the Galapagos, they found another process of chemosynthesis, where instead of plants, you've got bacteria as the base of the food web, and those bacteria are converting chemicals into the same product, which is glucose, which feeds everything else that lives around the hydrothermal vent community. So this was a brand new discovery, and it's important because there might be similar processes or similar bacteria living in other locations that are not on planet Earth. Other places, such as Europa, might have conditions amenable to chemosynthesis.
Wow, that's pretty mind-boggling. Is anyone brave enough to ask a question yet? That's a great question. Victoria would like to know when the last time was that you went to research the hydrothermal vents.
So Dr. Ballard discovered the hydrothermal vents back in the 70s, and it's really interesting because this particular time in the Galapagos is going to be the first time that he's able to go back to continue research at this particular site. So it's kind of a homecoming for him and the Nautilus and getting to go back to this particular area. They're also going to be looking at some deep sea corals in the Galapagos area and doing some mapping of the seafloor and the hydrothermal vent sites as well.
Has any mapping been done in the area of the hydrothermal vents before this? And will you be able to compare the new mapping data?
Yes, there have been a few previous expeditions. Since the 1970s, the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer was there within the past 3 years doing some mapping. So we'll be comparing the old maps from the 1970s with the newer maps from 3 or 4 years ago, and then the maps that we produce on this leg of the expedition, and just looking to see how things have changed. Because of course in the deep ocean, as on land, things don't stay the same. Things are always in flux and always changing. So it will be interesting to see how much that area has changed in the past 30 years or even the past 3 to 5 years.
That will be really amazing. Anyone else? That's a great question. Victoria would also like to know if climate change would affect the hydrothermal vents landscape.
I think that's a really good question. That's something that scientists, I'm sure, are currently studying and looking at how climate change may affect different areas, different habitats, and ecosystems. So I'm sure that the data collected over the past several years after the hydrothermal vents discovery is going to allow us to have a better understanding about that particular environment.
Super. And have we one last question? Very, very quiet crowd here today. They're all standing looking. Nobody wants to ask the first question. So can you tell me how you guys ended up on board Nautilus? Because it looks like a pretty dream job.
Oh, absolutely. We're definitely enjoying our time on board. Well, for both Beverly and I, we are here in the role of a Science Communication Fellow, which is a program open to any educator from anywhere in the world. It could be a formal educator in the classroom or an informal educator, somebody working at a nature center or a museum. And there's an application period that opens in late August to early September. And after you submit your application and your references and go through a round or two of interviews, then you find out if you got the position or not. And there's also programs for high school students if they are interested in ocean exploration. There's a program called the Honors Research Program where some high school students get to come on board the EV Nautilus and see all of the science that takes place. And they can also deploy an ocean drifter. So there's plenty of opportunities for people young and a little bit old like us to get on board the EV Nautilus and see what's going on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've enjoyed answering your questions and getting to talk with you. We're now going to turn it back over to Kelly at the Inner Space Center.
Thank you, Belfast,
Thanks,
for all of your questions. They do have to get back to work on the ship, but before we go, we have one last video from Dr. Robert Ballard.
Today, more than ever, we're coming to realize how precious our oceans are and how interconnected all of us on planet Earth have become. Deep ocean exploration has become vital to our planet's future. Thanks to telepresence and the internet, you can join Dr. Ballard and the Corps of Exploration aboard EV Nautilus 24 hours a day as they go where no person has gone before.
I really enjoy sharing my experiences, and I can't think of anything better than having you come with me and let you experience that as well. And now we have the technology that I don't have to wait to come home and tell you. You can come aboard the ship and be there at that moment and not read about it, but has said, I was there.
Thanks again, Susan, and everyone else there at Titanic Belfast. To follow along for the rest of the season and to send in more questions, you can go to nautiluslive.org and be on the lookout for dive alerts on our Facebook and Twitter page. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Bye-bye.